Welcome to our weekly broadcast from the Arab American News. We are fortunate today to have Dearborn Heights Mayor Dan Paletko with us here at the offices of the Arab American News, and we're going to be talking about issues at Dearborn Heights. Some members of the city council are accusing the city that has funds have been missing, and the mayor, saying that absolutely that is not correct. And he is rejecting all these claims. In fact, we will be talking to the mayor about this, and also we will be talking to the mayor about developments in the city and the state of the city as he is really spending his first year in office in the last term that he has been elected to in 2017, if I don't.
That is correct.
2017. Mayor Paletko, thank you for joining us
it's
today.
an honor to be here with you.
And we appreciate your time and, of course, your leadership in developing Dearborn Heights. Let's talk a little bit first about the news that broke out today that the U.S. Attorney's Office have charged a Dearborn Heights man of hate crimes against Arab Americans.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about this?
This individual has some very serious psychological difficulties. The ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, let the city know that they were going to do a raid on his home. They had subpoena from the courts and found the evidence they needed to arrest him on a recent firebombing along Inkster Road just south of Cherry Hill.
That's all what you know. And you know today that the U.S. Attorney came forward with charges of hate crime against Arab Americans.
Yes, and he is a very disturbed individual.
Right. Well, some people say that when it comes to white terrorists, they call him disturbed individual. when a Muslim does something wrong, they call him a terrorist.
Well, I would call him a terrorist. That is, in all sense of the word, that is. We were all scared that he had this tendency to put things in fire. So all of us in the community were at risk if you made him mad for some reason.
Yeah. Mayor, we want to talk a little bit with you frankly and, and address the Dearbonites, that there is an issue that's been, surfacing in Dearborn Heights City Council, the last one. It was a pretty bad for the city that these accusations are coming out, and some members in the city council believe that there are $1.4 million approximately now. I am saying, I don't know whether the number is right, that have been reportedly missing or allegedly missing from the books. Can you please explain what are these accusations all about, and what is your response to this?
Yeah. It's unfortunate that the term missing was used because nothing is missing. All the funds in the city are audited. What it is some council members are indicating PEG fees, which are fees that the cable companies pay the community, could only be used for equipment. And we've been using those funds only for cable, but not only equipment, but also for the operations of the department. And they found.
So you're paying from the fund to the salaries to the employees?
Specifically
of
to
that
cable.
department?
Only of that department. They're
Okay.
all part-time, so it's very easy to identify them. And some of the council members said that was wrong. And what we did was we went back to a attorney, Neil Leto, who is an expert, represents TV and radio stations in the Metro Detroit area. And his opinion was that the PEG fees are restricted, but you can spend PEG fees on both the equipment and the operation of the department, which is what we were doing. So nothing is missing, and we feel very comfortable that we were spending the money exactly how we are required to do.
So when the lawyer says that they are restricted, are they only restricted to the equipment?
No, he said that they're eligible to be spent for the operation of cable. You cannot use, I can't use that money for purchasing a police car or paying for a firefighter, and I never did that. So,
So they can be used to pay employees that works for the department of the cable
Correct.
company. Okay, so actually the funds are there.
The funds were always there.
So they are allocated to a different department, but they are not different department. They're allocated as an expenditure in the same department, but not to equipment towards personnel.
They've been used for both, yes.
For
Yeah.
both. And so what is the allegations for? I mean, how someone comes out and makes such allegations that is unfounded? Why are they doing this?
I think it was used for political purposes, but it's very damaging to the city as a whole, to the business community, the residents, and the employees, and myself. And it's really an attack on all of us. It makes the city look bad. And there's no foundation to these claims.
Did you take any of this money yourself?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I know that you are a CPA,
I am.
a certified public accountant.
And I'm licensed right now, yes.
So you still have your license as a CPA.
Yes, for over.
Actually, you can sign a tax document and you're recognized as a specialist in.
My specialty is in tax, but I also did audits, and in fact, I worked for one of the largest international firms in the world, a firm by the name of Ernst & Young.
Okay, yes, of course, I know Ernst & Young. But now, let me ask you a question. The financial statement of the city has been reviewed by accountants.
Platt Moran.
Platt
correct.
Moran. And what did they say about them?
We received the highest rating that a CPA can award a client when they've reviewed the records. We have what is called an unqualified opinion. They told us that everything was fine and that the financial markets, the public, can all rely on our financial statements. So we've received the highest, and all the books in the city are audited and audited annually at June 30th of each year.
How do you intend to resolve this kind of misunderstanding or misrepresentation by the council? What is the roadmap right now as the leader of the city? What is the roadmap that you have in order to, dissect this to the community and maybe try to resolve it and bring the city together? What is your plan?
Well, I met yesterday with Councilman Muscat, who brought the issue up. Councilman Muscat, we had a good, frank discussion.
Ray Muscat?
Yes.
Yes.
And he suggested he said, can the attorney come and talk to us all as a council? And he recognized, I'm putting words in his mouth, but that the term of missing was not the appropriate term, that the disagreement was on whether or not the funds could be spent on items other than equipment in the cable. And so I believe that airing that at the council meeting will clear the air, and I feel very comfortable, and we'll have the attorney who gave us the opinion there to present it.
Mayor, why there is so much, I would say, fighting and inner fighting in Dearborn Heights most recently? I mean, this city was not like this like 3-4 years ago. Why is it like this right now? What's driving this kind of like negativity in the city, especially in Dearborn Heights City Council? There's lots of negativity that's been coming out in the last maybe year and a half.
Well, we ended up with new council members. I don't think they understand their total role, and they are quick to make decisions and comments.
You endorsed most of them.
Yeah,
I believe you endorsed the last three that came, the last three numbers
Yeah.
that came.
And real quickly, they switched, but for all indications, I mean, a couple of them have been very public that they want my job, and this is not the way to get it. People want us to work together. We're doing the people's work, and it's important that we all work together and move the city forward. And hopefully, that was why Councilman Ray Muscat and I met, and I'll meet with the other council members to try to convince them that we're here improve and make the city better, not tear it down.
You are extending your hand, to the other members in order to try to explain what is going on rather than just throwing accusations
Yes.
and always fighting back and all the stuff.
Yeah, what
because
I-
the negativity is affecting the city that has been making a huge progress, especially
Yes.
in the last 10 years. I wanted to talk about
Sure.
this. I don't want to drag, the negativity to this, interview. I know that we wanted to talk about the positive things that have been going on in Dearborn Heights. Of course, in every city there are negative and positive, and in a growing city, maybe this is a growing pain that what's happening in Dearborn Heights. But I know for sure that Dearborn Heights have made significant improvements in the last probably decade, and under your leadership, we've seen progress. Let's talk about the progress. There are four things in here that it comes to my mind. One of them is the Ford Road development. I know that we written in the Arab American News some articles not about only Ford Road development, but also about in 1 year more than 100 businesses have moved to Dearborn Heights from the Arab American community.
Yes.
The Arab American community have actually made Dearborn Heights a second home for them as far as businesses and also residents.
And that's
So I
the key.
wanted you to elaborate a little bit about the Ford Road development and how did you see this developing in the last decade?
I'm very proud of what has taken place, and the group that needs to be complimented, and that's the Arab Americans, specifically the Lebanese community, which has invested a great amount of money in homes and in businesses, and has really made the city a growth city again, which is very unusual. When you look at the inner ring of cities around the city of Detroit, most of them are in decline. That is not true in Dearborn Heights, but that's because of the community, their investment and time that they put in. It is, the other thing that helped move this along was I had a building and engineering director, Mohammed Sob, and both of us talked about what would be the biggest thing we could do to spearhead that development on Ford Road. And Mohammed suggested that we rezone the south side of Ford Road commercial from Inkster to John Daly, and we did that. And that allowed then businessmen that wanted to come in with their dollars to acquire the properties and immediately convert them to a business, rather than have to go through months and months of rezoning and all the other things. So we tried to make the business model where a person could invest their money and open up as quickly as they could.
And also, people are moving into Dearborn Heights from the community, from the Arab American community, because Dearborn Heights have been more of friendly Dearborn Heights City Council.
I'm glad you
And-
said that. I'm proud of that because I've welcomed the community in. I've also tried to change the makeup of the people who work in the city so it's reflective.
Well, one of the departments that you've been working on, and you've made some progress, not enough, but enough progress in order to talk about diversity in the police department.
Yes.
Under the leadership of the former police chief, Lee Gavin, and now under the new police chief, Dan. What can you tell us about the diversity there? I mean, at one time, there wasn't a single African American there and very few Arab Americans.
Yes, in fact, there were none, if I recall right. And we've been able to add 9 Arab American descent individuals. Many of them have come from other departments. They actually worked in, we have fostered
Different cities or different departments?
different cities.
Yeah.
And so it was encouraging when the first couple came and they told other Arab Americans, this is a good city to work in. You'll be respected here. And so they helped us in getting up to that number, and we still have openings. The other thing is we now have a couple women that are on the road. We only had one woman in the department 10 years ago, and we hired our first African American. My goal is to make the department be reflective of the people that live in Dearborn Heights. We don't have quotas. We're doing this by we haven't changed standards or done any we are getting some of the best applicants are the Arab Americans.
Yeah.
And so we haven't had to change anything we're getting the best, they're coming to us. And the other thing that's key is there's going to be a lot of turnover, a lot of senior policemen retiring in the next
How
3
many
years.
police officers do you have in the city?
We have about 70.
70. What is the total population of Dearborn Heights?
We're just under 60,000,
60,000. So for 60,000, you have what, 70 police officers?
70, correct.
70. And how many firefighters? do you
Fire, we're up to 65.
have? Any of them are Arab Americans?
No, that has been more difficult. The firefighters are a younger group, or let's say a middle-aged group. So as openings develop, Chief Brogan and he is on board about diversifying the department.
Yeah. There on the Ford Road development, if I can take you
Sure.
back just for a couple of minutes, tell us about what is new with the Ford Road development. Because at one time, it was going fast, and now it's slowing down. It seems like it is slowing down. So why is it slowing down, and what do you have a plan for the Ford Road development that's becoming actually the downtown of Dearborn Heights?
It is. One of the things that slowed it down was City Council would not change the ordinance as it related to drive-in windows.
Okay.
And that just recently changed, but that held up 4 developments that I'm aware of, because most restaurants now want a drive-through. And when that was not permitted in that area, that became a difficulty.
That's now it's permitted?
The change was made in late December and early January. They
this
had to
year.
have 2 readings of the council. So now, people who had plans, for instance, there's a Starbucks that wanted to move from where they are to a brand-new location, and they were restricted until they got that drive-through window approval.
Do you get complaints from your residents about property taxes, especially that they have just received their assessments?
Yes, I mean, none of us want to pay property taxes, and one of the reasons is that a lot of the people who have invested a lot of money in their home, in fact, there's a gentleman who came to see me, and he told me, he said, it's costing me $1,000 a week to live in the inner city. And that's a lot of money. I mean, but he's paying $52,000 in property taxes
Is it for home or business?
for his home
Oh, in Dearborn Heights?
in Dearborn Heights.
Wow.
There are some homes now that have been built that there is a significant impact. And now that includes the city, the county, the school district. It includes a multitude of taxes.
And
for
we thought
all-
that Dearborn was unfair as far as property taxes, because people are complaining that they're paying through the nose, for property taxes in Dearborn. So if you're saying that $1,000 a week, which means $52,000 a year for his house,
Yes.
what is it, a million and a half?
It is. It was that particular house. He wanted his mother to live in the house. She's elderly. So he actually, it's his home and his family, and then attached to it is like a second home
Oh.
for his mother,
Mother, so it-
and also has an elevator. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, in general, it's around Outer Drive and Ford Road.
Yeah.
And so, but that's not the standard. But we're cognizant of the fact that taxes can be a problem, and we are going to try everything we can to reduce them.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about a subject that's probably is a sensitive subject, but it's fair to talk about it, because Muhammad Subah was instrumental in bringing
Yes.
businesses, and the renaissance of Dearborn Heights
I agree.
actually happened and then he left in a way that is not appropriate, and I don't think it was fair. There were many accusations. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I know that one thing that I know for sure, that Muhammad Subah was a significant player in the renaissance of Dearborn Heights, and bringing businesses and people to Dearborn Heights. Your comments?
I totally agree. I mean, we were at a council meeting, and he got accused, and in fact, that accusation had nothing on a legal basis. It was a complaint that he had purchased a home from a resident who had asked, who was looking for a buyer and moving out of the community. And
It may not sound good. It may be it's not a very good decision, but it's not illegal.
it's not illegal.
Illegal,
And all the good that he did should not be forgotten because, as you indicated, and that's why I gave him credit for Ford Road, but also other development in the city.
What about the Van Buren Road development? Can you talk a
Yeah,
little bit about it?
Van Buren, I think, is a gem that's going to really grow, and that came about through the Taylor mayor and myself working together to try to put together an economic development. And that was because Masco moved to Livonia. Ford Motor Company took over the Masco operation, which brought 1,000 new employees, and we want to redefine that whole street. Dearborn Heights and Taylor are going to put $1 million per mile of improvement from Inkster Road to Southfield, and we have some really big plans for that developing.
Do you have any plans for the golf course that you just purchased from Wayne County?
The plans will be to continue to operate it as a golf course. The concern was...
Is it open now?
Well, will be another month, but
I mean, is it open? I mean, still open for business?
it's still open for
It
business.
has a banquet hall, banquet facility, right?
It does, it's
Do
very nice.
do you plan to make it open to public?
Yes, in fact, the council and myself are meeting with the operator tomorrow, and we'd like to see like a regular dining out in the summertime, maybe outside. Beautiful view overlooking the golf course. It can handle.
Are you going to allow hookah there?
I would. I don't have any problem with it. So
You'll have some customers, you know?
although the council put a ban on hookah, and
Yeah.
we're actually concerned about it because for Ramadan,
Yeah.
we had a local merchant resident
Right.
who opened up for one weekend and had his friends come and have food, and he drew 2,000 people.
Yeah, I know, I remember.
So what we did is we said, let's bring it over to one of the facilities
Yeah.
in the city and make it bigger,
Yeah.
and have more people come. And so we're actually.
Well, we had a
working
big,
on it.
huge festival in Dearborn, and the city closed it down rather than expanding on it.
Well, we're not only gonna have it open, we're gonna expand it.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that, and young man, because I don't use as much social media as
Yeah.
these young people do.
I think you should.
You keep telling me that, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to learn.
All right.
And he got 2,000 people by
Yeah,
his
yeah.
own social media.
Yeah.
And we would hope that we might be able to draw 5,000 or 10,000 people to this event.
Okay. What is your relationship with Jack O'Reilly? I know you do a joint talk in the chamber,
Yes.
and you just did, right?
We did in January. Jack and I are very good friends. In
Okay.
fact, because the two communities are so close, but Jack and I have been friends. He was council president in Dearborn. I was council president in Dearborn Heights. Politically, we're both of the same party. We have a lot of the same friends. And we get together occasionally socially. I was also close with the previous mayor, Mayor Guido, and I appreciate, because I became diagnosed as a diabetic, and he was, and he helped me very much, although he had other health complications. So I'm very close with.
So what
surrounding
kind of
here.
cooperation do you have with the city as far as two cities, Dearborn Heights and Dearborn?
Well, a couple things that we've worked on is, one is we opened up our libraries in Dearborn Heights, and any Dearborn resident can come to my library, and any Dearborn Heights resident can go to a Dearborn library. So the collections are not duplicating, but
Okay.
rather are complementary. And we have a lot of residents on the west side of Dearborn who actually come to the Caroline Kennedy Library. We're going to expand that. We've also looked at sharing some recreational things, but when we
What
get
about
to-
the police and fire?
that becomes problematical, but I believe we will work closer together. The big change that has just recently happened is Dearborn was the only city that I was aware of that wasn't on 800 megahertz. So like in my vehicle, I can listen to Westland, Taylor, a lot of the area
You're talking about the frequency for the police, right?
for the police and,
Yeah.
and fire. And we couldn't do that with Dearborn, which was a big mistake, because you get a criminal fleeing, or they're trying to get, we couldn't use our radios to communicate. You'd have to go back through dispatch, who would then have, Dearborn dispatch would have to tell Dearborn Heights dispatch, would have to tell my police officers.
So are they right now on the 800 mega?
They have gone to 800 meg, so you get the little chip and you can listen to it. There's a good cooperative effort. The fire department for Dearborn is now filling their trucks up at the Dearborn Heights Fire Station. So it's in its infancy, but both Mayor O'Reilly and I have talked about the fact that the two communities are very interlocked together. And the more we can do together and combine our resources, the better it's going to be for the community, both of us.
Mayor, I appreciate your leadership, and I wanted to thank you for your time today. There are many things that we will need to talk about, but we're going to defer it to another time, where we can have you here again and we talk about them, and we talk about the progress in Dearborn Heights in the future as well. Thank you very much for having.
And I just, two things I'd like
Yes,
to say is,
yes.
one is that I've always appreciated, you have done so much for the Arab American community, and whenever you have called and asked me for something, I know that I've got to respond, because you are a major piece of the community. Also want to congratulate you on your upcoming anniversary.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate your leadership and your cooperation, and thank you for watching. We will be following other interviews as well as the week progress. Thank you.